Oh, good day, family. Good day. It's good to see you. Took me a few days to get back. I got me a new table, and it's kind of high. Yeah, it's very high. Might as well get this right here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go back to the other table. That little bitty short one. It's much better. Ooh, I want to wait till at least one more person come in. I will repeat it again, but did you hear that all of the ports are empty? We got like 2 weeks at the most. Yep, like 2 weeks at the most. I'm kind of like, can somebody give me some plants and a pot with some seeds? At least I already started. I'll take it like that. If you can and you got you some land and stuff, buy you a couple of chickens. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you eat eggs and stuff, buy you a couple of chickens. Throw you a potato out the front and an onion out the back. Yep. This man done honey. Oh, I don't know. We're going to have to, it's going to be tough for the babies because they ain't used to not eating. They're not used to not eating. Just going to have to be straight up with the kids, with the babies, and let them know, hey, ain't no food no more. We ain't got food like that no more. You got 2 weeks to change their mind, give them a different mindset. They'll be happy. Prosperity. They will be so happy to have a plant that's growing some carrots. If they love carrots, buy them that potted plant with that bag of soil and some fertilizer or something, some plant food, and let them grow them carrots. Everybody got to start having them, get them a plant to grow and take care of so they can contribute to the family eating. Because it ain't finna be no more food. I'm there with y'all. I ain't got it either. I wasn't ready. I ain't ready. I'm just woo-wee. And I want to throw a potato out over the balcony and just let it start growing. Because there ain't finna be no more food and stuff. It's too late. I was way late. But yeah, y'all. So, we got basically like maybe 2 weeks at the most. Hopefully things will turn around and stuff and give us a little bit more time. I don't know. I just know, I wasn't able to come on and stuff, but I was watching and stuff. Had my great-grandson. Yes, the first great-grandchild. Yes, honey. And I was watching and stuff, and I was like, whoa. You mean to tell me ain't nobody shipping here? Everybody deciding to everybody else because of your rump, because of your rump. Everybody deciding that they don't want to ship and do business no more with America. So ain't nothing being shipped here. Ain't nothing being shipped here and stuff. It was talking about you might see layoffs because ain't nothing being shipped here. Ain't no merchandise. Ain't no needing the trucks coming and stuff because ain't gonna be nothing on them. So yeah, talk to the babies and stuff. They old enough to know. Mothers, go back to breastfeeding. My sister, time, yeah. You might need to pull that wig and stuff off and them lashes and nails off before you got the scrap because we finna be down to the nitty gritty now. Yep, it's going to get very, very tough for us, rough for us. We're going to have to know where our resilience come from now. We need to know about our resilience at a time like now. This man just been in here like 100 days, I think somebody said. I'm like, whoa, shit. I thought it'd been like, seemed like it's been months that man been in office and stuff. But honey, he basically just got in there last night and then did all this damage and destruction. But everybody voted for him. Those that voted for him and stuff. Everybody getting some of this oppression. Everybody finna get some of this motherfucking oppression because they all condoned. As long as black people getting it, they was all right with it. Now everybody finna get some of it. The children don't understand. The babies don't understand. The youth don't understand stuff. But that's exactly what happened. It sure is. Start bartering with each other. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to start bartering with each other. Yeah, borrowing. Loan and, let me get this and you get that. Give me a dozen eggs and I'll braid the baby's hair for a week. You're going to have to do something. I don't know. As for me, I guess this is, me learning fasting. It's going to have to come in handy for me. Yeah, give me some water. Give me some water. I just be eating I'll be on here eating a raw carrot by itself. Y'all be saying, Face, at least cook the vegetables. I don't need to cook it. I can eat this carrot just like this. Yeah, just, get that potato peel in there. And yeah, it's finna get like that and stuff. Ain't finna be no milk. It's basic stuff. I got a list somewhere. It was talking about citrus and stuff like that, which about that explosion anyway, that I was telling y'all about that explosion at that lithium plant. And it was like 50 miles or something from the salad bowl of America. And that's where we get like 70% of our fruits and some vegetables and stuff from there. So I don't know how deep the contamination went, from that explosion in the air or the soil, because they lie so much, you don't know. And now with this right here, I don't know. Yep, everybody finna get some of this oppression. All I gotta say is Black America is know your resilience. Get to know your resilience. Get ready to go through some shit until those people up there where he at, the people that's up there with the people that be. They're going to have to, get that man on up out of there. Get that rump up out of there. Everybody else in the world like, fuck America. We ain't doing nothing with them. Just please don't send nothing else over here. We'll be okay. We'll learn to survive through this and stuff. Eat sparingly. Once a day if you got to. If anybody got to eat more than once a day, it's your elderly, the babies. Need to eat more than once. But us, it's time to fast. Fast. We don't need nothing with no flavor in it no more. We don't need all of that. And then all of a sudden, I seen something that said the FDA is taking the dyes out of all the cereal and the candies and stuff like your Skittles and Fruit Loops. And for what? I guess they figured the damage is done now. We done got enough of them sick with the dyes. Put it back. I mean, that's just some bogus ass shit. That's fucked up what they've done to this country. It's just, I don't know who to cuss out first. What these folks done did. And got us smack right in the middle. Yep. Folks should have been paying attention instead of being upset at Black America and trying to keep Black America down. That's what everybody been focused on. Yep. Even when he was telling them. They still, as long as Black America don't come up, as long as Black America don't get what they need and get another day to fight. And hell, Kamala, did she say she wasn't giving us nothing anyway? I seen a video, she said, I ain't giving Black people nothing, not just Black people. So why? I guess it was also because she, is the color. And just to have her in there, I don't know, but it was fucked up. It was fucked up. And now, y'all, we got to get through this. We're going to have to get through this, Black America. Don't get upset with each other. Don't be mad at each other. Hell, everybody hungry. Everybody finna be motherfucking hungry. But you're gonna have to get your mind right. Get your mind right. First of all, just admit it to yourself and shit, the food is poisonous anyway. You need to fast. That's how our ancestors lived a long time, y'all. They were eating everything. They were eating chitlins and pork and the bottom feeders and stuff like that. But they were fasting too. They were using their spices and herbs. Because I think it's cilantro. I have to find it. It removes a lot of metals and stuff from your body, like 87% lead from your body. So, our ancestors were using the spices and stuff like that. Stock up on your spices. Alcohol, rubbing alcohol, get like the 70%. I think we need to go to the dollar store. If you got it and stuff like that, go on to Costco, Sam's Club or something. Buy the pallet up. Help your families and stuff. Help them too, especially if they got them babies. Get some hair grease. They're going to need some hair grease for them babies' head and stuff, at least a little bit. Going to have to ration everything out. We ain't never did this before. It's unprecedented. I didn't know. We were just sitting up here because we've been reading and stuff. Me and the great-grandson, he only 5 months old. And then I happened to just turn on and stuff, and it was like the ports are empty. Yep, it said that California is one of the major ports. It said California is empty. Seattle, San Diego, New Orleans, Miami, Virginia. It was a whole lot of them, like 12. Oh, whoa, I guess ain't nothing coming in. Yeah, you better get what you can get, because in this next 2 weeks, y'all, it's finna be it. Yep, and that update came from a sister today on how many it was. It ain't just Seattle and Los Angeles. She gave out the rest of them. And all of them together, shit, it's like, yeah, we're going to be eating once a day. Once a day. Just be honest with the babies and let them know. Just let them know everything. Let them know everything. We ain't got no time to be sugarcoating it for them and lying to them. And making them think, no, it's like this for everybody because it's always been. It's like this for everybody because everybody been riding Black America and been keeping Black America down, and they haven't been paying attention or caring, giving a fuck what was going on that political vulture. Either way, hell, I don't know, the Republic and the Democrats, hell, you should have crashed the whole damn bird, Black America. You've been riding on it and stuff, and now look. I'm just saying. I'm not upset and stuff. I'm just like, damn, something else? Something else. Always something. Everybody finna get it. But for us, let's keep our head. We the ones that's got the resilience. Keep that in mind, okay? We're the ones that's got the resilience. Let's learn about it. We need to know about our resilience. We sure do, honey. We need to make sure we stay here. We stick around. We know what this whole scenario is about. I do. So do, honey. Ooh, we. Unprecedented times. Wow. But let's give some shouts out, and we're going to read, honey. We're going to read and try to come up with some more solutions and stuff. If you got it and stuff, go on and throw them seeds out them windows. Throw them seeds out there, honey. You're going to have a garden on one side and a vegetable and a fruit garden all around the house and stuff. Them flowers and stuff, maybe put them in the front only and put your food around the rest of the house and stuff. Yeah, it's going to be fun, though. It ain't got to be hard and challenging. Just look at this like, this is the best. We finna become self-sustaining. We about to become self-sustaining by force, but it is what it is, by force. We didn't choose this on our own because it's the right thing to do for us as a people collectively. We being forced to do this. So, yeah, we can do it. Yep, either way, we can do it. We still who we are. Yeah, I got to pull this up. It was back too far. I got to get rid of this table right here. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do it now. But yeah. Hi, Kelvin. It's so good to see you. Oh, call dog. Hey there. Oh, nothing much. Nothing much. I can't complain unless it's about my people. Yep, that was in Moss Landing, California. The people that lived there had skin irritation and the produce got affected. Yeah, sure did. The salad bowl of America made me think about the punch bowl. But, it said that 70% of the foods there, the vegetables and most of the fruits, we get it. So, I'm like, shit, I don't even want no romaine salad. Sure don't. Good day, Larry. It's so good to see you. Yes, it's been a minute. Hi, Dave from California. I know that's right. Yeah, it's about to be bad in Northern California, the Bay Area. Yep, sure will. We just better be ready. Just better be ready. We got to use discernment. Make sure your families is okay. You okay. Get all you can get. Even if it seems like you ain't going to need it. I know maybe you don't eat black beans, but get them anyway. Your ass get hungry enough. Everybody going to want 5 of them beans. I'm just saying. Get it anyway. Now it's not the time for us to be choosy and stuff. Especially we didn't reach that financial pinnacle. We can't just go out and go to Sam's Club and take a good $200-$300. Just buy up some shit from the kitchen to the bathroom. Just buy up everything you need and stuff. We can't do that and stuff. A lot of us ain't able to. We just gonna have to do what we can and stuff, and that's enough. That's enough. Make an effort. It's gonna multiply. It's gonna multiply. I just feel bad because it's like, damn, 2 weeks for real. I'm like, shit, I ought to be on TikTok. I ought to go on TikTok and be, sister, was you for real? Did you make a new video giving us, did you mean 2 months? But they were like, it's 2 weeks, y'all. Then one sister was like, it might be 1 week. So yeah, if you got the funds and stuff and you got it like that, go on and get your seeds, your soil, your pots and stuff. Yeah. So let's read. Oh, granddads, it's good to see you. What it is. I'm black and I'm proud. I know that's right. We better fight off Whitey because he sure fighting us. Yep. And everybody else too. I hope not that everybody really sees what the big picture is. What the big picture is. And they need to turn around and let them know that, why they doing all of this. We know y'all doing all of this against Black America. But hey, you hurting us too. Leave Black America alone. Give them what you own. Stop all of this futuristic bullshit. Pull a halt on the New World Order, but it might be too far gone. It's already here. Yeah, it's already here. They already got it up and running. It's just a matter of time before they put the rest of them satellites in our neighborhoods. They're going to have to put them satellites in our neighborhoods. That's for them huge 5G towers. They're going to connect like ripples when you throw a rock in the lake and you see them ripples. That's how them towers, them waves are going to connect, y'all. We literally going to be under them. Yep. And then in the neighborhoods, it's going to be like every 4 or 5 houses. They're going to have a little, it's going to be like a light pole, but it's going to have a like that antenna effect. Some of them got it downtown and stuff. I'll take some new pictures because I used to take pictures of them all the time. Like, what the hell is this huge chandelier? They got these motherfuckers like within half a block of each other. They huge. I know y'all seen them. They did it during the lockdown. They were putting them huge things. They got them by nursing homes, on top of buildings, apartment buildings and stuff. They got them by, it's one up here by the Piker School. And I'm like, well, damn, by the homeless shelters and stuff. It's like, wow, for real. I don't like it. I feel like, our mayors and governors should at least send out a memo and asked us. But they didn't. They just started putting these huge ass monoliths up. And when they turn them on, y'all, we don't know what it's going to do. I think it's humming now. I think them 5G towers are humming now. They not fully up 100% from what I read and wrote. I find it when I get everything situated because it was like, damn, it's going to be a whole, like a racetrack. That's how it's going to be. It make me wonder, who the fuck are these people? Yeah, spirit come through. Because this right here is out of our scope. Yeah, they done crossed the line with all of this. Show him. Don't slight them on no mercy, y'all. You better get out the way. Just take care of you, yourself, your family and stuff. Make sure y'all okay. And and get out the way. Don't be trying to go out there and save nobody and stuff and all. That ain't what it was, and that ain't what it's supposed to be. Yes, it is. All of this is intentional. Yep. So let's read. Let me cover this up right here too. It's so good to be back. Yes, y'all. I don't know. I might be taking Mondays and Tuesdays off with this great grandson of mine, honey. We were watching Malcolm X, honey. We were reading over here. And that was my first time having it and stuff in this apartment because I just recently got here and stuff. But yeah, he think his nana is awesome. Yeah, he was 5 months old, but he love his nana, honey. Yeah, I'm Facing Nation. We on Bolden Unchained, and we here, y'all, to assist Black America and Black media. Yeah, we're here to assist Black America and all of this and everything that's going on. We're here to help us. I'm here to help us. I can't help everybody else and stuff. Everybody else got their help. It's fine. I ain't gonna turn nobody away. We don't turn anyone away, but we're here to help us. We're here to make sure we survive this. If you're here for other things, then I want you to know you're in the wrong place. I don't want you to waste your time because this gonna irritate you if you're in the wrong spot. And you can come and go and stuff, and that's fine with me. You can come and go because I'm just here to talk about my people and my ancestors, and they already told me, Face, everybody ain't gonna be there, you ain't for everybody because I ain't for everybody. I already know this. So, I appreciate those that are here and stuff. I appreciate your presence and your patience. And the ancestors do too during this time right here, learning about them. It's important to them. It's important to me. That's why I'm here. We looking through a spiritual lens. We finna uncover everything. Everything that come across, we finna uncover it. Because we need to know our resilience now, y'all. Everything we've been learning, looking through this spiritual lens, our loyalty, resilience, and education. We already in the resilience. Already. And I'm like, damn, I was hoping we had a little bit more time before we really needed to get to that right there. But we don't. We got it. Yeah, we in the thick of it. In the beginning. So yeah, we just, it's all at once. It's gonna have to be all at once. The good, the bad, the ugly, the savage, and the ravishness. All at once. We gotta catch up. We gotta catch up. We got some work and some healing to do for our people. And that's why we're here and stuff. I ain't no religiousness here and stuff. I'm not religious. You should know that by now if you've been here before. I'm not religious. You ain't gonna sway me to be religious either. Because truth be told, I seen sister. I didn't watch her video. She a new sister. I just been seeing her and stuff. And she was saying how Yahweh became God. I don't know. I just learned about Yahweh and Yahushua myself. But you better do your history, your research with that right there. With their religion and stuff. You better do your research with it. Do your due diligence. Because it seemed to me like it's a trap. Everybody's saying it. Everybody's saying it. Everybody done read the same book you done read. They done read it. Done memorized it and stuff too. And then some of them woke up and said, hey, wait a minute now. And there was the awakening with them. You got to get to that point too. I don't know if it's going to be that Horus is the first virgin born. I don't know if that's going to be it or what. I don't know if it's going to be because now in heaven, white folks up there misusing black people. I don't know what it's going to be with you, but you better talk to your higher power and find out who taking you where, Black America. Everything must be questioned now. Everything. Your Bible too. All of it. You know what I think? You should be reading between the lines and get yourself in the place where you're supposed to be for your people, for your ancestors, not for you, for them. This ain't about us. This is bigger than me and you. We got to make sure our people, our lineage, our ancestors. Can't just leave them in this bullshit. I can't. So yeah, we looking through a spiritual lens. I don't forgive nobody. The forgiveness that I had, I took it back. I took it back. Once I read some of that was it. I give everything to my ancestors, my benefit of the doubt, my patience, my love, my acceptance, my forgiveness. I give everything to my ancestors, my people. And you ain't gonna change my mind. Ain't nobody gonna change my mind. Not about this. My ancestors. I don't think so. And then, I think I done lost the page. So, yeah, we looking through a spiritual lens, y'all. Let me go ahead and do the copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Because after this right here, after all of this, my ancestors still gonna be standing. It's still gonna be me and them. So yeah, we need to decide whose side we on. It go back to my very first videos. Whose side are we on? Yep, don't get distracted because all this cause you're hungry. Don't get distracted because you're hungry and run your ass over there with Sabrina now and get full over that. Then when you come back home with us and stuff, you gotta act like you hungry too. Knowing damn well you done sit over there and ate. You hoping your stomach went down so we don't notice you went over there and ate some food. Yeah, we're gonna be hungry together. It's time to fast together so we can elevate. And then when you're fasting, after 3 days, your body starts healing itself. 72 hours, yep. So, I'm just saying it's goodness in it. It's benefit to this. It ain't all, just gonna be devastation, destruction, and death. No, it ain't. Don't worry. Just be wary. That's what we need to do. Just be wary. And continue doing our knowledge. Don't stop doing our knowledge. Whatever happened and stuff, still be working on your personal library, your garden, working on yourself, going within, setting your boundaries, keeping motherfuckers, whatever it is, keeping them and it away from you if it's bringing you down in your vibrations and stuff, be it music, TV, conversation, even dressing. Don't come around me dressing all hoish and shit, everything hanging out. No, you got to set boundaries. We got to set boundaries now. Yep, we have to. I ain't even on TikTok. Well, I am. I don't know what to do with it. But I be seeing it on YouTube. When it be coming through, I be seeing it. And I be like, I sure knew it was something. That's why they were trying to shut TikTok down and stuff, because everybody on there telling the truth and stuff. Everybody on there telling the truth. Oh, it's just awesome and stuff. This is the time, y'all. This is the time. It's a new awakening, Black America. We in a new awakening. We're in a reawakening. This is our second awakening. Yep, I didn't even know we had a first awakening. Red Summer, the summer of 1919, and the awakening of Black America. This was our very first book. Get to book number 6, and yeah, we in a new awakening. Yep. Everybody else in their first awakening. But us, so yeah, we need to know our resilience so we can get through this. We're going to have to get through this. And those of us that, that know, and we know the benefits of fasting and stuff, we should be able to let our friends and our families help them to accept this. Because if you don't and stuff, as soon as somebody get hungry, the shit finna hit the fan. Yep. As soon as somebody hears somebody over there eating an apple or something, the shit might hit the fan. Don't let it be like that, because it ain't got to be. All we got to do is let our people know, change our mindset. The way we eat, the way we think, change it. Yep, hell, ain't no need being out here trying. Honey, if I were y'all, I wish I had some name brand stuff. Honey, I'd be outside. I would have a sign that these shoes right here is $10. I'd be selling everything. Sure would if I was y'all, honey. But yeah, I'm pretty thrifty and stuff. So I need my little stuff that I got. And that ain't nothing but some pictures and books. But I'm just saying, you got coats and purses and shoes and stuff like that, honey. I be at Plato's Closet, the consignment shop. I be at Once Upon a Child. I be at thrift stores and stuff, honey. Yes. If they got, and you know, some of them, you donate your stuff and you go right on in and shop. I'll be going to the ones that's got canned goods. Yeah, you got canned goods in there. You got books in there. Yep, getting stuff. Yeah, sure will. Get candles, y'all. Get your candles. If you can't, get your CB radio, some walkie-talkies. I'm just saying. I'm going to try to cram all this in here in this next 2 weeks. So, yeah, I'm finna be going to the pawn shop and stuff. Ooh-wee. Well, let's read. Y'all, we are reading 100 Years of Lynching. And we almost done. Yeah, I'll say we right. Louisville, Mississippi. We did read Clarence Darrow. Yeah. So we're going to start here with Courthouse and Lynch Gallows, New York World. This was a New York World, November the 12th, 1927. Courthouse is Lynch Gallows. Columbia, Tennessee, November the 12th. A courthouse balcony became a gallows when Henry Choate, Choate, an 18-year-old Negro accused of attacking a white girl, was hanged by a mob here yesterday. One end of a rope was fixed around Choate's neck and the other end secured to a balustrade. Choate was then thrown over the side. The courthouse was festooned with red, white, and blue bunting for yesterday's Armistice Day celebration. Yeah, we read that because I remember reading about the red, white, and blue that they had up. It was still on the balustrade from the celebration. Just like they asked, well, go to church. Right after church and stuff, go right back to hunting and lynching black people. Celebrate one day, and then the next day, just probably after the celebration, they went and hunted, looking for Henry. And it's something that all of this is coming out at the same time. Everything's coming out at the same time. New York Times, January 12, 1930. Foresees end of lynching. Atlanta, Georgia, January 11th. Lynching will be a lost crime by 1940. Something for scientists to study and the rest of us to remember with unbelief. And it will be wiped out by radio, road goods, and the newspapers, according to Will W. Alexander, director of the Commission on Interracial Cooperation. In 1919, when the commission was born, 83 persons was lynched, said Mr. Alexander. This year, the records show but 10, and those in only 5 states. The figures are startling when one finds 1,726 lynched between 1885 and 1894. Our earliest records. That was right after black people got their physical freedom. All told, 4,377 persons have been lynched since 1885. A good-sized town. 10 years from now, we will be wondering how it ever happened. And you know, I think those numbers are much higher, considering the lynches that we're reading about, and there was nobody. Some of them, it wasn't no documentation. They didn't document everyone. It's like your missing persons. This is like where your missing persons began. Ours. Well, I'm talking about our Holocaust. 10 years from now, we'll be wondering how it ever happened. Well, let's not forget. Let us not forget. Columbus Inquirer's son. This Columbus, Georgia. May the 10th, 1930. Unable to blast into jail, mob burns it to kill Negro. Sherman, Texas. May the 9th. A mob today burned the $60,000 Grayson County Courthouse, cremating George Hughes, Negro, after unsuccessfully attempting to seize him from officers. We read this one, yeah. We closer to the end than I thought. But we're going to go on and read about George Hughes because he wouldn't come out. They couldn't get to him. So they set the whole jail on fire. White folks tore the whole jails up, everything. Hughes, who had pleaded guilty to assaulting a white woman, died in a vault in a courthouse in which he had been placed for safety by Texas Rangers and local officers. When the mob stormed the building during the trial, crying for his life. Driven back 3 times by officers who hurled tear gas bombs and fought with fists and clubs, but did not shoot into the crowd, the mob finally set fire to the courthouse. An earlier attempt to dynamite the structure had failed. 3 youthful leaders of the mob were seriously wounded in a clash with the guardsmen. 2 of them were shot and 1 may die. Jed Brown, 18, was shot in the chest, and physicians held little hope for his recovery. Several of the guardsmen were struck by stones, bottles, and missiles hurled by the mob in its attempt to storm the county jail. Meanwhile, another crowd battled a detachment of guardsmen on the square when they attempted to drive the crowd from the grounds of the wrecked courthouse. The Negro quarter of the city was deserted, and appeals were sent to neighboring towns to rush police officers here to assist Sherman authorities. The flame of an acetylene torch. I guess that's like a Molotov cocktail or something. I don't know. We'll have to look it up. Oh, like a blowtorch. Yep. The flame of an acetylene torch was directed against the vault by the mob, which did not believe Hughes had burned to death. Previously, 2 attempts to blast open the vault failed. 7 sticks of dynamite. Where the hell There wasn't no limits that these people would not go to get a black man. It wasn't no limits, y'all. These unprecedented times may show history in the midst of it. I don't know. Just keep your eyes on the prize. 7 sticks of dynamite were placed under the vault door and exploded, but failed to open the door. A can of blasting powder was set off, and this explosion also failed to shake the structure. Hughes, who had pleaded guilty to charges of assaulting a white woman, had been placed in the vault for safety by Texas Rangers and local officers when the mob stormed the courthouse, crying for his life. After the guardsmen had repulsed the mob at the jail, machine guns were set up at strategic points around the building. Sheriff Bones said the Negro was given his choice of running for his life after the courthouse fire began or being shut in the vault, and that he chose the vault. When last seen alive by the officers, he was sitting on a chair in the vault, his head bowed upon his folded arms. What black men had to go through. Columbus, Croissant, Georgia, May 11, 1930. Lynch fever running high, Sherman, Texas, May 10th. Culminating an orgy of mob madness. A mob early today set fire to a Negro drugstore and nearby erected a funeral pyre for George Hughes, 41-year-old Negro attacker of a white woman who was suffocated or otherwise killed in a fire which destroyed the Sherman courthouse yesterday. The body was recovered at 11:45 o'clock last night from the vault in the courthouse. It was dragged through the narrow opening made by an acetylene torch and dynamite blast and a chain wrapped around it. When the men who went into the vault shoved the body through the hole and dumped it to the ground 2 stories below, women screamed and clapped their hands, and a great cheer went up from the mob. White women were so happy. White women were so happy. The chain was fastened to the rear of an automobile, and it was started through the streets toward the jail, dragging the body. As the mad mob cheered wildly. Can you see white folks? I can see them. I can see George. The state rangers and guardsmen remained at the jail, not attempting interference as the dynamiting was in progress at the courthouse ruins. A lot of times the white men just felt like just give them to them and to stop the rage. To stop the rage, just give them to them. Yeah, they should have been shooting motherfuckers. That's what they were there for. They should have been protecting these black men. If the white men chose to lose their life by trying to come and kidnap someone, they were supposed to uphold the law. They didn't do it because it was their white brethren. That's why none of them did it. Even those who felt sympathy for the black man and stuff, they still wouldn't shoot them. I don't give a damn shit. Shoot both of their fucking ankles off. New York Sun, May the 10th, 1930. Texas mob runs amok, burns blocks of Negro homes because they couldn't get George. Sherman, Texas, May the 10th. As an aftermath to the burning of the Sherman courthouse here yesterday, in which George Hughes, alleged Negro rapist, was killed, 3 blocks of Negro dwellings were burned by a raging mob here early this morning. The mob, after seizing Hughes' body from the ruins of the courthouse, chained it to the rear of an automobile and started for the Negro section. Through the streets, the mob dragged the body, and the journey ended at a large Negro store which housed a drugstore, a beauty shop, an undertaker, a tailor, and other enterprises. A tree was nearby. The body was strung up to the tree and boxes piled beneath. A fire was lighted. Then the drugstore was set on fire. After virtually destroying the drugstore, the mob surged down a 3-block section of the Negro district. A stampede of humanity run amok. Clubs, bricks, bottles, and fists were wielded against the windows and doors. Virtually every store was entered, and its interior looted and wrecked. That's what they did to black folks' neighborhood. I don't love them all the time. Near 2 a.m., most of the mob dispersed and harassed officials believed that most of their grief was over. Just then, a fresh fire broke out, and the overtaxed fire department went clanging again into the Negro district. About 700 white persons, in knots of 20 to 25 each. No, in knots of 20 to 50 each, were on the streets at that hour. Every Negro had disappeared from the Negro section, even from districts which were not burning. The frightened men and women and children were reported to be huddling in brush thickets on the outskirts of Sherman. Later this morning, hundreds of curious persons invaded Sherman. Highways were covered by solid strings of automobiles, bringing visitors to this city, which, because of its numerous colleagues and colleges and churches and fine public buildings, is known as the Athens of Texas. So now it was just a sightseeing. Chicago Defender, May 17, 1930. Added facts on lynching. Sherman, Texas. Damn. Sherman, Texas. Y'all give me a minute because I'm finna go through this shit again. I don't know. It's just a cough. Let me get my tea bag. Let me get me a tea bag. Get some flavor. One of lemonade tea. I know I got one somewhere. Don't be sending no negative eyes my way, because I sent them all back. Sure do, honey. Don't be sending nothing our way. Ooh, spirit come through. Yes, see. I know, right? Yes. And you can go to Lynn Monet, and order your tea. Yep. Chicago Defender, May the 17th, 1930. Added facts on lynching. Sherman, Texas, May the 16th. Millions of Americans have read about the recent conflagration, which took place here in connection with the lynching of George Hughes. Nowhere in the white press has mention been made of these two important facts. First, Hughes had not confessed to the rape he was charged with. As a matter of fact, a jury had just been sworn in and witnesses were beginning to testify when mob violence interrupted the trial. Hughes claimed he was innocent. Second, the lynching and burnings took place on the anniversary of the birthday of the abolitionist John Brown. Wow, one of their own that they killed, him and his sons. Atlanta Constitution, June 1st, 1930. Mob overrules the National Guard to lynch accused rapists. Chickasha, Oklahoma, May 31st. Henry Argo, a 19-year-old Negro accused of attacking a white woman, was shot in the head and stabbed twice near the heart today by a lynch mob which attacked him in his jail cell. Believed by the mob to be dead, he was removed in a blanket and taken to the University of Oklahoma Hospital in Oklahoma City, 50 miles away, where he died 1 hour later. A fight between law enforcement officers and the mob that preceded the mob's entry into the jail resembled a pitched battle between two armies at war. Remarkably, no one was fatally wounded but the Negro. Wow. A mass of 1,000 men and boys massed in front of the jail early last night and made a number of unsuccessful attempts to seize Argo. Leader of the attacks was W.G. Skinner, husband of the woman who was alleged to have been attacked by Argo. Henry Argo was picked up on a highway 2 miles from the Center house soon after the attack and held on suspicion. Argo denied his guilt. The mob's first advance on the jail was repulsed by deputy sheriffs shooting over their heads. In Bolden, the mob returned with battering rams and sledgehammers and began to break down the steel door of the jail. Just then, 30 National Guardsmen, ordered out by Adjutant General Judge F. Barrett, arrived in a truck. The Guardsmen fired blanks from a machine gun, aiming over the heads of the mob men who were momentarily driven back from the jail door. The mob men retaliated with a rain of bricks, pavement blocks, and bottles that broke every window in the jail and sent the guardsmen fleeing for cover inside the jail. The mobsters then set fire to a guard truck, cut all the power and telephone lines to the jail, and they snipped the hose of a fire brigade that had arrived to help disperse the crowd. With the guardsmen as virtual prisoners within the jail, trapped on the second floor, the mob stacked a pile of mattresses in a downstairs room, soaked them with gasoline, and sent a dense smoke aloft. The guardsmen came down coughing. They came to terms with the mobsters, virtually surrendering. The mob permitted the guardsmen to leave the building and to take with them all other prisoners but Argo. The fire on the ground floor was then extinguished. He knew they were coming. Rioters seeking clubs and brickbats raced through the building, tearing out water pipes and flooding the interior of the jail, which added to the confusion. A number of mobsters advanced on the door to Argo's cell. Finding the door locked, they began to break open the wall like fucking animals. Like animals, y'all. Argo fought desperately, hurling everything within reach. At one point, he wrenched an iron bar from one of the attackers and drove the rest back with it, flailing it wildly, injuring a number of the men. It was during this confusion that a sniper, unnoticed, climbed up a vine outside the jail, aimed a pistol at Henry Argo's head, and shot him near the brain. Shortly thereafter, W.G. Skinner, husband of Argo's alleged victim, managed to enter the cell and stabbed Argo twice above the heart. With Argo a heap on the floor, the mob dispersed. Argo was then taken to Oklahoma City, where he died. Skinner, a tenant farmer in overalls who lives in a mud hut, was an important man in town today. He was much in demand at sidewalk gatherings and was asked time and time again to tell and retell his part in the lynching. This afternoon, he collapsed on the jailhouse lawn and was taken to a hospital suffering from overexhaustion. Just like them white men, that beat Preston Coleman at that VFW. He was the only brother in there. VFW, full of white folks. And that man beat him so much, beat him so long, he had to take a break. Everybody is just sitting there watching. One man got up and helped him beat Preston. And if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me, it said that Preston's father used to go to that VFW. So they knew him. They knew his dad. They knew him and knew his dad. I forgot where that was at because it was a Coleman in here named Richard Coleman. 14-year-old Richard Coleman. He was the one they put cayenne pepper in their baby eyes, burned him at the stake. Thousands of men and hundreds. Oh, you better not be scratching on my yoga mat. It said thousands of men and hundreds of women and kids went there to see Richard Coleman, 14-year-old Richard, at a lynching, rubbing cayenne pepper in his eyes and holding his eyes shut and just torturing it. I wonder where that was at. Is the family still there? Is that family still there where Preston was at? Because we ran for our lives. Black people ran for their lives. It was an actual saying, Hajira black people. Yep, black people running for their lives. What it was, a Hajira of Negroes or something like that. I got it wrote down. But it literally stood for black people running for their lives because we had to run for our lives to get away from white folks. Man, it's like it's so surreal. But this is our resilience. And this is why we got it. We get it from our ancestors. Don't you think for 1 minute that you don't have it and you can't do this. Yeah, Hajira of Negroes. Black people running for their lives in shock, traumatized over this man collapsed from overexhaustion. Editorial from the New York Telegram, July 12, 1930. A Southern statesman. The question whether lynching is justifiable is figuring in the United States senatorial campaign in South Carolina. Unbelievable as it may seem. Senator Coleman L. Blease, B-L-E-A-S-E, up for re-election, discussed the subject in a campaign address. Whenever the Constitution comes between me and the virtue of white women in South Carolina, I say to hell with the Constitution. Blease is quoted as having said recently at a scene of a recent lynching where he was seeking the local vote. His ass was at the lynching. They all were. When he was governor, he added pridefully, he did not call out the militia to protect Negroes against the mobs and asked that when a suspect was caught, he not be notified until the next morning to give him time to lynch him. It would be difficult to equal such a statement for sheer barbarity and demagoguism. You know what I'm trying to say. Demagogism. Demagogism. Yeah, demagogism. I ain't never seen it before, but there it is. It is a deliberate invitation to the people of South Carolina by an acknowledged leader who boasts that he has held more political offices than any other man in the history of the state to supersede normal legal processes with lynch law and mob violence. And there's been plenty of that in the South in recent weeks. We cannot believe that such savagery reflects the views of the people of South Carolina. Obviously, men like Blease have no place in the Senate or in any other public office. It will be interesting to observe whether the decent people of South Carolina are willing to bear the stigma of having him again represent them. Maybe this is where we were with Atlanta Constitution, September the 10th, 1930. Mob disbands after talk by glib police captain. A nervy police captain with courage, a sense of humor, and a gift of gab used all three Tuesday night to disperse an angry mob of several hundred men who gathered suddenly about the Negro clinic of Grady Hospital where Robert Glaze, Negro held in connection with the fatal shooting Monday night of John B. McWhorter, streetcar operator, lay seriously wounded. Yeah, we read this right here too. He was able to use his gift of gab and stuff to get the mob to back off. As a result of the smoothness with which Captain Grover C. Fain, under instructions of Chief of Police James L. Beavers, handled what was for a time a menacing situation, the crowd disbanded in an orderly manner, and the suspect was quietly removed to Fulton County Jail, where his alleged confederate in the robbery attempt, Willie Lee Cox, also wounded, likewise is being held. Earlier in the night, according to the police, Chief Beavers had instructed Captain Fain to keep an extra watch of reserves on duty, both at the headquarters and at the hospital. Both watches were assigned by the night captain, the one at the hospital having instructions to notify headquarters in the event any untoward developments occurred. Shortly after 8 o'clock, Captain Fain received a telephone call from the hospital detachment. As a result, he immediately telephoned Chief Beavers at the latter's home, ordered the reserves at the station and all available call officers to go to the vicinity of the hospital. There was discovered that a large crowd thronged the sidewalk near the Negro clinic. It was a nondescript mob composed largely of men in civilian clothes, the police said. A buzz of excitement throbbed through its ranks as the police cars drew up. Chief Beavers was among the first of the officers to reach the scene. One man, apparently a leader of the men, saw Captain Fain and stepped forward to meet him. It was then that the captain employed his nerve, humor, and diplomacy. Without displaying any official resentment or anger, he began to talk to the unidentified leader and those who surged around him. He reminded them that they were supposed to be law-abiding citizens. He spoke sympathetically of the death of Mr. McWhorter. And called the attention of the leaders to the work of the officers on his watch who had captured the suspected slayers. When the front ranks of the mob showed signs of restlessness and began once more to move forward, Captain Fain met nerve with nerve, indicating an imaginary line across the sidewalk. He adopted a law often used by old-time skippers of four-masted schooners. Now you men, he said, are law-abiding citizens up to now, but you're just about to become lawbreakers. And the first man that steps across that line violates the law. I represent the law here, and whoever violates that law is going to have to answer to me and my men. The tall leader and those nearest Captain Fain eyed him silently for a minute or so, saying nothing. Then the tall man turned and said, "The captain is right, boys. Let's go back." The crowd began to walk back toward Piedmont Avenue. A certain element in it, however, still hung with dissatisfaction, and the victory the captain had won perilously near an open break when another unidentified man broke from the ranks and came up to the captain. In a rage, he threw his hat to the ground in front of the captain's feet. He surveyed Captain Fain with cold eyes and then challenged, "Spit in that hat." But the police official's sense of humor came to the fore here. His eyes twinkling in the street light, Captain Fain placed his hands on his hips. "Listen, fella," he scoffed, "you got more sense than that, haven't you? Why, son, if I were to spit in your eyes, I'd drown you. Now, isn't that a fine way for a grown man to act? Throw his best hat on the ground and invite a captain of police to spit in it. You ought to be ashamed of yourself." The crowd began to laugh, and the unidentified challenger, having been exposed to the ridicule of his own ranks, lost his point. Within 5 minutes, the entire throng had dispersed. Instead of shooting down, he tried to laugh him out of it. But it worked. They left till they came back. Atlanta Constitution, September 11, 1930. Possibly one. Maybe other lynch victims were innocent. Darien, Georgia, Darien. September the 10th. Of two Negroes lynched here last Monday and Tuesday in connection with the killing of one policeman and the wounding of another. At least one positively was the wrong man, according to a statement issued here yesterday by Mayor R.A. Young. We are convinced that the Negro who was shot by the posse and taken to Savannah where he died was not one of the two suspected of intent to rob the Bank of Darien, said the mayor's statement. Two Negroes loitering near the Bank of Darien were suspected of intent to rob the bank by Officer Ora Anderson here on Sunday night. Anderson hid in the shadow near the bank, intending to observe the two Negroes. One of the Negroes caught sight of him crouching in the shadows and is said to have opened fire. Anderson was slightly wounded. A posse quickly formed and a systematic search of swamps and underlying territory were quickly begun. George Grant, a Negro, was located in the swamps. Before he was seized, he shot Officer Bob Freeman fatally. Grant was brought to the jail here in Darien, where a mob shot him to death. Before dying, he was questioned about the man who was thought to have been his companion in front of the bank. Grant is quoted as having said that his name was Brian. An alarm went out and 4 Negroes named Brian were rounded up. Among them were Willie Bryan, 24, who was located at a house on the Ridge, a place about 4 miles from Darien. As he and the search party were leaving his house, Bryan is said to have attempted to flee. He was shot twice in the chest and soon died. The location of bullet holes in his chest was explained by the posse as having resulted from Bryan turning around to fire at the posse as he fled. Concluding his statement, Mayor Young said, Officer Anderson has given us evidence that eliminates Willie Bryan as a suspect. On the basis of Officer Anderson's assurance, I am wiring the police heads of Savannah, Brunswick, and Jacksonville to keep a sharp lookout for Fred Bryan, the Negro we really want. Officer Anderson, after seeing Willie Bryan, has reported to me that he is not the man who was Grant's companion. The Negro shot weighed about 162 pounds and was dark. The Negro Fred Bryan, who we want, weighs over 200 pounds and is ginger cake in color. The most lamentable part of this whole affair is the death of Police Officer Bob Freeman of Brunswick. Our sincere sympathy go out to his family. Montgomery Advertiser, September 24th, 1930. Hunting Negro in Swamp. Thomasville, Georgia, September 24th. A crowd of several hundred men were reported searching a swamp near here tonight for an unidentified Negro who today attempted to attack a 9-year-old white girl on her way home from school. Officers reported that highways in the vicinity of the swamp were choked with automobiles. So many lies. You hear these lies? I don't see how we could. Indoctrination is deep. New York Negro World, October 4th, 1930. Prison warden doubts guilt of Negro lynched in Georgia. Thomasville, Georgia, September 25th. A mob of 75 men today arrested Willie Kirkland, a young Negro convict, from the hands of the sheriff, hanged him to a tree in the suburb of Magnolia Gardens, and after riddling his body with bullets, toted it through the town behind a truck and deposited it on the courthouse lawn. The courthouse, the jailhouse, the courthouse, all of them little towns and stuff, they got history. They got history. Your courthouse. Look at the history of your courthouse. I know my courthouse got history where I'm from. Main Street do too. Kirkland, who was 20 and a trustee at the county stockade, a prison camp where he was serving out a term for stealing a horse, was said to have been twice identified by a 9-year-old schoolgirl as the man who had attempted to attack her. But the warden of the camp expressed doubt as to Kirkland's guilt, saying the Negro did not leave the stockade yesterday, the day of the attack. Prominent citizens in the town tried to reason with the mob and prevent the slaying, but as the sheriff brought Kirkland out of the stockade to take him to another jail for safekeeping, the father of the girl raised a shotgun to kill the Negro. Someone knocked the gun down, but the parents' action seemed almost a signal for the mob to attack. The sheriff was disarmed and Kirkland placed on a motor truck and driven to Magnolia Gardens, not far from the winter home of Harry Payne Whitney and the former residences of the late Mark Hanna and John D. Archibald. There, the Negro was hanged to an oak tree and shots were fired into his body. When the mob was sure Kirkland was dead, the body was cut down and towed back to the courthouse. This was the mob's demonstration of contempt for the law, which would not have prescribed death for Kirkland under any circumstances since the assault was not accomplished. Witnesses told the sheriff they were unable to identify any members of the mob. The attack on the girl was frustrated when her screams brought her mother to her aid. A posse was formed quickly and bloodhounds trailed the child's assailant to the stockade. Kirkland was arrested and the girl identified him. The next morning, she again picked him out from 4 other Negroes as the man who had tried to attack her. It was then that a restless crowd formed around the county jail, and word that Kirkland had been transferred to the stockade led it to the camp just as the sheriff was removing the Negro. The sheriff, the only witness at the inquest, told the coroner's jury he was unable to identify any of the mob. The jury decided that Kirkland came to his death at the hands of unknown parties. Editorial from the Literary Digest, January 31st, 1931. Missouri's is the shame. Almost all Maryville, 3,000 strong, it is reported, turned out for the feast of blood. A strong wind was blowing, and the little schoolhouse with the Negro bound on the ridgepole and plentifully soaked with gasoline made a spectacular blaze. In 10 minutes, it was over. Schoolhouse and Negro were reduced to ashes. It was the first lynching of 1931, and Missouri's is the shame. The Negro had been on his way to the courthouse for a preliminary trial when he was seized by the mob, according to a dispatch from the St. Louis Star. Ample preparations for the funeral pyre had been made. All the furniture had been removed from the schoolhouse, and the Negro, showing remarkable coolness, was made to climb a ladder to the roof. Then a hole was cut in the roof, and through this the Negro was bound to the ridgepole with a 10-foot chain, his head hanging down one side of the roof and his feet on the other. One of the mob poured gasoline over the prostrate man. Gasoline was then sprinkled inside the building, and all was ready for the match. This the newspaper. This how the newspaper was telling. It was like a festive to them. All of these lynchings were. Every lynchings. The lynchings in Duluth, Red Summer, all of them. They were like a festive, like a carnival. Your biggest carnival. White folks enjoyed it. That's why the newspapers tell it like this, like it was excitement, entertainment to them. Then that's how they saw it. Gasoline was then sprinkled inside the building, and all was ready for the match. After the fire, the crowd, which had been looking on in silence, walked slowly away, like it was nothing, like they hadn't done nothing. Just walked away, satiated till the next time. Thus was avenged the honor of a 19-year-old school teacher who several weeks before had been confessedly mistreated and done to death by the Negro on whom the mob wreaked its vengeance. New York Sun, November 9, 1931. Doubt of guilt found in most of 1930s lynchings. Atlanta, Atlantia, not Atlanta, 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 Georgia, November the 9th. Conclusions that 2 of the 21 persons lynched in 1930 certainly were innocent, and 11 others possibly so. Prosperity. And 11 others possibly so were advanced today by the Southern Commission on the Study of Lynching, along with a criticism of hasty trials and legal lynchings. The commission listed as findings of a year's survey that there's real doubt of guilt of at least half the victims of mob violence. Black men were innocent. Fewer than 1/4 of the persons lynched since 1890 have been accused of assaults upon white women. Claims that lynchings are necessary because courts do not convict Negroes for their crimes are fallacious. Mob leaders can be identified without difficulty, although grand jury indictments seldom are brought. Lynching is most frequent per tens of thousands of Negro population in sparsely settled areas. There's a direct relationship between lack of education, low economic status, and lynching danger. The report was made public here today by the commission's chairman, George Milton, president and editor of the Chattanooga News, regarding offenses that resulted in lynchings. The commission said one man was lynched solely because he had offended political opponents, and another to prevent his appearance as a witness in a serious court case against white men. In some cases, the commission said it found reason to suspect victims had been deliberately framed for purposes of concealment or revenge. Georgia led in contributing to the 3,603 recorded lynchings since 1889 with 469. Mississippi had 464 lynchings. Texas had 364 and Louisiana had 349. The commission concluded that lynching, while decreasing during the last 3 decades, was becoming more exclusively a Southern phenomenon, with 97% of the country's lynchings occurring in the South in recent years. Oh, remember we read about Hackensack. Hackensack, New Jersey. The Evening Record, February 20, 1933. Ringgold, Louisiana. It's LA, I guess it's Louisiana. February 20th. A Negro who kidnapped a banker and his wife in an attempted robbery and killed the man for defending the woman against attack was lynched by citizens at the scene of the slaying yesterday. Officers said the Negro, identified as Nelson Nash, 24, of Leesville, Louisiana, early yesterday morning, entered the home of J.P. Batchelor, 50, of the Ringgold Bank, and forced Batchelor and his wife to take him to the bank and open the doors. When Batchelor told the Negro he could not open the vault, the bandit forced a couple, still in their nightclothes, to accompany him down the railroad tracks about a mile north of the town, where he allegedly attempted to attack the woman. Batchelor grappled with the Negro as his wife ran to a nearby cabin to summon aid. The husband was severely beaten about the head and died of his injuries. As news of the crime spread, several hundred citizens organized posses and captured Nash 15 miles away and brought him back to Ringgold, where officers said he confessed the slaying. The crowd spirited the Negro away to the scene of the slaying, hanged him from a tree, and riddled his body with bullets. Indianapolis Recorder, March 4, 1933. Lynched for killing banker. Negro was the wrong man. Ringgold, Louisiana, March 1st. Nelson Nash, young Negro who was brutally lynched here February 19th, was the wrong man. The perpetrator of the crime for which Nash was an unwilling victim may well have been a white man. I want to say on behalf of reading the other books that we have read, it was noted that, like in racial violence in Kentucky, 1865 to 1940, and in racial violence in the United States, it said it in the books that white men were committing these crimes. A lot of these crimes against white women weren't even true. They were made up lies. Yeah. White women were committing these crimes and coming up with these fanciful lies to incite this rage that they needed so that they could justify it and stuff. Yeah. George Fraser said they were the only one that could historically, biblically, morally try to justify what they've done. White folks. But yeah, it was a white man may have done this. And I don't doubt that a white man did this. This was revealed today after careful investigation of the circumstances surrounding the lynching had been made by a correspondent of this paper. Just before the lynching, at the sheriff's questioning, the wife of the man for whose murder Nash was lynched positively refused to identify the lynched man as the one who murdered her husband, J.P. Batchelor, white local banker. Batchelor and his wife were forced to leave their home by his murderer and accompany him to the Ringo Bank. Batchelor was killed by the man when he refused to open the safe at his command. The man wore no mask, and Mrs. Batchelor had full view of his face and profile. Though she would not say whether her husband's assailant was white or colored, she did refuse to specify Nash as the guilty party. First press reports failed to specify Batchelor's murderer as a Negro. They also originally placed the number of the lynch mob at 500 of this town of 1,500 population. A more careful checkup based on corroborating testimony of eyewitnesses places the number at 40, and it is said that they were not mobsters from the poor section, but wealthy businessmen and friends of Batchelors. Nash was arrested shortly after the murder of Batchelor and taken before Mrs. Batchelor for identification. Even after Mrs. Batchelor failed to connect Nash with the crime, the posse remained determined to avenge the crime with their own hands. Protesting and proclaiming his innocence, Nash was taken to the woods outside of town. He asked the mob to spare him a few minutes to pray. The mob told him to open his mouth and stick out his tongue. He did so. The tongue was grasped with a pair of auto pliers and severed by a razor. An attempt to burn Nash was made, but it was found that the grass and the wood was too wet to accommodate such a slow death. Instead, he was strung up from a tree. He protested his innocence until a volley of bullets killed him. Nash, aged 24, was known to be a peaceful young man and had never before, ever, been in trouble with the law. New York Herald Tribune, March 27, 1933. Doctor rescues Negro lad. Lowell, North Carolina, March 26. A physician here today saved a Negro from a lynch mob by hiding him in his cellar. A 20-year-old youth stealthily approached the home of Dr. James W. Reed, R-E-I-D, and told him that a mob was searching for him, having accused him of attempting to assault Miss Kathleen Jenkins, a 16-year-old white girl. The doctor hid the youth in his basement as the mob combed the neighborhood around his house. After they left, the doctor drove the Negro to Charlotte for safekeeping in the Mecklenburg County Jail. That's in North Carolina. Anybody ever heard of that? The Mecklenburg County Jail. Atlanta Constitution, July 6, 1933. Negro and white scuffle. Negro is jailed, lynched. Clinton, South Carolina, July 5th. A Negro truck driver who had came to blows with a white truck driver was found dead today. Norris Bendy, Norrisbendy, Lawrence County Negro, had argued yesterday with Marvin Tollis, white, after each had driven a truckload of 4th of July picnickers to Lake Mary. When the men came to blows, the Negro was arrested. Sometime this morning, the Negro was spirited away from the Clinton jail. Later, his body, showing signs of shooting, beating, and strangulation, was found several miles from here by Deputy Sheriff Thad Moore. It was hanging from a tree on the lawn of the old Sardis Church. Knoxville Journal, July 23, 1933. Mysterious lynching in Mississippi. Columbus, Mississippi, July 22nd. Mystery shrouds the lynching of a Negro which took place at the little town in Caledonia, 15 miles north of here. First reports merely stated that a Negro had been lynched last Friday after he allegedly insulted a white woman. Subsequent efforts by newsmen to secure details of the lynching met with outright denials that a lynching had taken place. Later it was admitted, however, that an unnamed Negro had been hanged. It was said that the Negro went to a farmhouse and made an improper proposal to a white girl. The white girl sent him away with the understanding that he was to meet her later in the nearby cotton field. When he appeared at the designated time, he was met by a band of white men who were waiting for him. The band seized him, hanged him, and riddled him with bullets and quietly dispersed. New York Herald Tribune, October the 10th, 1933. South Carolina lynchings, slay Negro, one tells of police help. 96 SC, 96 South Carolina. That's the name of the town, 96. 96 South Carolina, October 9th. A coroner's jury ordered 4 men held late today on the charge of murdering Benny Thompson, youthful Negro who was taken from the jail here last night and beaten to death. The action was taken by the jury after Burley Leopard had read a statement admitting that he and 3 white men had taken the youth from his cell and whipped him with automobile top tubes. The men implicated by Leopard were J.F. Morris, Lesty, Mays, and Tootie Well. Leopard, a textile worker, and Mays were in jail tonight, but officers were still searching for the other 2. We and the others had some trouble with the Negro at a cafe last night, and he drew a pistol on us, Leopard's statement said. The Negro was arrested and put in jail. Later, the 4 of us went to the jail and asked the jailer to turn the Negro over to us. He refused, telling us we would have to see the chief. Chief of Police Rush came in a few minutes later, and we made the same request of him. He told us to wait until dark and come back, and we would find the jail unlocked. We went back to the jail a short time later, and we found the door open and the lock hanging in the cell door, pushed together as if it had been locked. We took the Negro out and drove him down the road in my car. All of us beat him with automobile top tubes and left him beside the road still alive. Leopard said this was at 7:30 o'clock last night. Just after 8 o'clock this morning, the Negro's body, bearing many welts, was found in plain view of the highway by a small Negro boy. Solicitor H.S. Blackwell, who attempted the inquest, said he would ask that Chief of Police Rush be indicted as an accessory to the killing. Chief Rush made a statement tonight, denying the textile workers charged that he had aided them in taking the Negro from his cell. I have been an officer a long time, and I would never be guilty of such a dirty trick as that, he said. New York Times, October the 19th, 1933. Maryland witnesses wildest lynching orgy in history. Maryland witnesses wildest lynching orgy in history. A lynching orgy. Princess Anne, Maryland, October the 18th. In the wildest lynching orgy the state has ever witnessed, a frenzied mob of 3,000 men, women, and children, white men, women, and children, sneering at guns and tear gas, overpowered 50 state troopers, tore from a prison cell a Negro prisoner accused of attacking an aged white woman, and lynched him in front of the home of a judge who tried to placate the mob. Then the mob cut down the body, dragged it through the main thoroughfare for more than half a mile, and tossed it on a burning pile. 50 state policemen and deputies battled vainly with the crowd in front of the jail, tossing tear bombs in an effort to disperse it. 5 policemen were beaten to the ground, and the others were swept aside by a fury of townsmen and farmers who used a heavy wooden battering ram to smash 3 doors and reach the cell of the terrified prisoner, George Armwood, 24 years old. George Armwood was dragged by the neck through the streets to the home of Judge Robert F. Dewar, D-U-E-R, who earlier in the day had called the Somerset County Grand Jury in special session next Monday to hear testimony against the Negro. While the prisoner pleaded desperately for his life, and members of the mob shouted, "Lynch him!" A rope was placed about his neck. The other end was swung over the limb of a tree directly in front of the judge's dwelling. To accompany shouts of "Let him swing," the struggling Negro was hoisted into the air. 5 minutes later, he was cut down, dead. Then members of the mob shouting, seized the loose end of the rope, and dragged the body half a mile on Main Street to a blazing pile in the center of a thoroughfare. The dead man was lifted high by half a dozen men and flung to the flames. George Armwood. Hundreds of persons packed so thickly about the fire that the police couldn't even fight their way through. And just had to watch the body burn. Armwood, who was arrested on Monday night, confessed to police that he had waylaid Mrs. Mary Denston, 82, on a lonely road near Monacan, 8 miles from this place, and he had attacked her. He was smuggled into the county prison this morning, but word soon spread that he was here. Men by the hundreds gathered about noontime. They marched about the jail, shouting and demanding that the prisoner be surrendered to them. A guard of 35 men, augmented by deputy sheriff, surrounded the prison. In the afternoon, an emergency call for state police was sent to Governor Ritchie at Baltimore. A score of troopers reported in the late afternoon, armed with riot sticks and tear bombs. In addition, the governor directed that the American Legion be asked to guard the prisoner E.C. Young. Local post commander spurned the appeal. He said, "No, I have no authority as commander of this legion to call out its members as a military unit or for police duty," he said. "I am willing as a legionnaire to protect the townspeople and their property. However, I have no desire personally as a citizen, as a legionnaire, or as a commander of a legion post to engage in police duty for the protection of a Negro charged with such an atrocious crime. The laws of our organization forbid such use." Hoping to allay mob feeling, Judge Dewar had recalled the grand jury to hear evidence against Armwood and announced that the Somerset court would convene in special session a week from tomorrow to try Armwood. And they didn't want to wait. The crowd became more and more unruly as the afternoon and the evening wore on. However, at about 9 o'clock, the attack on the jail began. The march to the scene of the lynching of Armwood was wild in the extreme. The mob members seemed crazed, continually leaping on the Negro, even after he fell to the ground and was unable to arise. One boy, apparently about 18 years old, slashed the Negro's ear almost off with a knife. Under the oak tree, despite the presence of women and children, all the victim's clothes was torn from his body, and he hung there for some minutes nude. They just looking at him. He was nude. They just looking at him, wanting him. After they had burned the body, the mob members disbanded. Rumors are current that the mob will reform later to lynch John Richardson, a white man with whom Armwood was riding at the time he was picked up. Richardson is in jail for safekeeping. New York Times, October the 20th, 1933. Baltimore, October the 19th. Negro lynched by accident. A Negro demonstrator was nearly hanged by accident here today as a large number of communists and members of the International Labor Defense assembled in the City Hall Plaza to protest the lynching of George Armwood. The demonstrator, his neck in a noose under an imitation gallows, was standing in a truck which was labeled "Protest Lynching of George Armwood," Armwood. Police were escorting the truck to the meeting place when it hit a bump in the pavement. The Negro lost his balance and for a moment gave a realistic exhibition of a hanging. He was quickly restored to his feet. He didn't quickly get down. He was restored to his feet. New York Herald Tribune, October 25th, 1933. 21 lynching witnesses cited only strangers. Princess Anne, Maryland, October 24th. Each of the 21 witnesses who testified at the coroner's inquest into the death of George Armwood, Negro lynched here last Wednesday night, today testified that they didn't recognize a single member of the lynching mob. I could not recognize any of them. They were strangers, stated Sheriff Luther Darty. Such in substance was the testimony of other officers and witnesses. All insisted that the lynchers did not live in this vicinity. I've heard that name before. It's slightly different though. And yeah. Birmingham, Alabama News, November 29, 1933. Lynch victim's corpse may have been dug up. And this is George Armwood too. All of these right here is about George Armwood because it was more than one newspaper there. And Racial Violence in Kentucky explained that all of the newspapers was telling their own stories to embellish it and get more subscribers and sellouts of their newspapers. Princess Anne, Maryland, November 28th, George Armwood, the Negro who was mauled and mutilated before he was lynched here last month and whose body was then burned and further desecrated, appears to have had his grave tampered with last Tuesday night, according to a statement by Steve Hopkins, superintendent of the Somerset County Almshouse, on whose grounds Armwood is buried. And see, the other ones didn't even say that he was mutilated. They made it seem like they just walked away. They just dispersed. Hoskins said yesterday that the turf over Armwood grave appeared to be churned up and covered with fresh dirt, indicating that whatever fragments of his corpse remained in his coffin may have been dug up. New York World Telegram, November the 4th, 1933. A fear of communism cited as lynching cause. Chattanooga, November the 4th. In a report issued today, the Southern Commission on the Study of Lynching gave as one cause of lynching a consuming fear of communism. A recent triple lynching of Negroes near Tuscaloosa, Alabama, was directly traceable to this cause, the commission said. New York Herald Tribune, November 29, 1933. Reporter describes escape from Maryland lynch mob, Washington, November 28. The escape of newspaper correspondents and photographers from a Maryland mob today was described as follows by a reporter for the Washington Daily News as one of the endangered writers. I now know what it feels like to have a mob get after you. I have just returned from Salisbury, Maryland, after a gang of about 500 angry men stormed the Wicomico Hotel, Wicomico, Wicomico Hotel there, demanding that the manager turn over to them 7 newspaper men and photographers who had stayed behind to send news stories to their papers. After the infuriated mob members finally forced armed soldiers to leave Salisbury in a hail of curses and brickbats, they turned on us. I was just finishing my story over the telephone when the hotel manager struck his scarred face into the booth. "Get out quick," he said. "The mob's coming after you fellows." I dashed out of the booth and went into the manager's office. About that time, a group of men rushed up to the desk. "We want those newspaper men," one of the mob demanded. "They not here. They've gone," the manager stammered. I backed into a small clothes closet. "We don't believe it," said the mob leader, "and we're coming back." I held my breath. It seemed like about 5 minutes. Finally, the manager tugged at my coat. "Get upstairs to 318 in a hurry," he said. I ran for all I was worth. In the room, I found a group of reporters and photographers. Outside, three floors below, you could hear the mob yelling for us. "We want those newspaper guys," they shouted. About that time, a bellboy knocked at the door. "Boys," he said, "you all had better get in another room. I think them folks done seen you in here." Some of us went across the hall. The others went further down the hall. Then we waited. Outside, we could hear them chopping something. Fred Cole peeked out. "They're chopping up and burning my car," he said. About 10 minutes later, another bellboy came back. "Come up to the 7th floor," he said. He looked scared. On the 7th floor, we were met by the manager. "Now listen," he continued. "This thing's getting pretty bad. But we're telling them that you have all gone. We've checked you out and all that, but the mob is still suspicious. What do you think they would do to us if they caught us?" A photographer asked. The manager smiled. "Give you a good beating," he answered. "I don't think it would be any worse than that." I decided to make a break for the airport. Freddie Cole pushed 2 photographic plates under my coat. I handed someone my press card. With the manager, I walked downstairs. There was a lot of people milling about, of course. I imagined every one of them was a mobber. I waited for 10 minutes. Then the manager eased up and said, "There's a taxi driver outside. He won't pick you up here. It's too dangerous. You walk down the street and hop on his cab at the corner." I made my way to the taxi and safely to the airport. New York World Telegram, November 29, 1933. Crowd cheered and laughed at Negro's horrible death. Crowd cheered and laughed at Negro's horrible death. St. Joseph, November 29th. They didn't hang Lloyd Warner. They burned him alive. Here's how it all happened, from start to finish. The mob started to gather about 5 o'clock p.m., but they were good-natured then. The sheriff was kidding them, and nothing would have happened had not 3 river workers taken charge of things. They didn't say much except, "Get me that," or "Do this," as they went about breaking into the jail. It was very businesslike. Of course, excitement mounted and permeated the mob of at least 10,000 white folks. It said there were 10,000 white folks at John Hartfield's lynching. 50,000 white folks was at one lynching. They came out. It was their culture. There were lots of women along and many sightseers who didn't take part. There was at least 1,000 from out of town. And where was this at again? St. Joseph. Yep, St. Joseph. About 9 o'clock, the mob tried to enter the jail through the courthouse next door. Through a passageway, they got to the 2nd floor of the jail, but was unable to go further. So they went back to batter their way in. On the 3rd floor was Sheriff Otto Theisen, Theisen, his deputies, 2 newspaper men, and National Guardsmen. They were armed with tear gas and pistols, but not a shot was fired except by the mob. The mob fired plenty, but the bullets only scarred the jail walls. Guardsmen en route with the 3 tanks, they were stopped. A mob yanked the soldiers out of the tank and mauled them. After a section of oil field casing or water main pipe fell, failed to batter in the outside door, 2 5-ton trucks was backed up. Log chains were attached and the doors pulled from the walls. Yeah, after a section of oil-filled casing or water main pipe failed to batter in the outside door, 2 5-ton trucks were backed up, log chains was attached to them, and the doors was yanked off. Just yanked from the walls. The second door inside was battered down, but one remained when the sheriff went out the back door, came around to the front and said to the mob, "You are plenty of Irishmen, and I am but one Dutchman. You are too many for me, boys. I'll turn him over to you." The mob cheered and shouted. The sheriff said he feared they would lynch all prisoners. He went for Warner, who was chattering in fear. Warner hung to his cell bars for life until his fingers bled. He was pulled loose and taken downstairs. But the sheriff didn't show the prisoner yet. "You fellas clear out," the sheriff said calmly. "Send 4 men in, and I will let them have it." This was done. The Negro, clinging to every object he could reach, tried to hold himself back. Warner was dragged a block toward the center of town to a small tree across from the Hotel Robidux, Robidous. That's the city's leading hotel. They tied an 1.5-inch rope around his neck. Before hanging, the job was bungled. It was tied so that it only threw his head back instead of forward, so as to break his neck. He hung and struggled as the crowd yelled. Laughter rang out on all sides. Men and women leaned calmly against the buildings, witnessing the horrible sight. They just popped up like, just looking. Yep, just looking. Warner wanted to talk, but they wouldn't let him. Then someone ran across the street, got 7 gallons of gasoline from a filling station. Warner had on pants, shoes, and socks, which they drenched and set on fire. Warner was still alive. He didn't cry out. The fire went out. More gas was thrown on him and lighted again. Then the rope burned in two. As the body slumped, wood was piled around and the fire was lighted a third time. The crowd cheered and laughed and made jokes. New York Herald Tribune, December 3rd, 1933. Mob violence disappearing from American way of life. Although the 3 recent lynchings in dissimilar communities have widely aroused public opinion throughout the country, the fact remains that lynching, as a typical American way of dispensing with the process of law, has always been with us. Since the Civil War, lynchings have markedly declined, but outbreaks of mob violence continue to be frequent. From 1889, when records of lynchings began to be kept, to 1932, 3,745 persons have been killed by mob violence. This excludes several race riots in various Middle, Western, and Southern cities now. I ain't talking about some of the race riots. It ain't talking about some of the, it's not talking about some of the cities in the Middle, Western, and Southern cities. I ain't talking about them. So yeah, it was more than they said it was. In 1889, 176 persons were lynched, while in 1932, 8 met death at the hands of the mob. To date this year, 17 persons have been lynched, according to unofficial records, bringing the total since 1889 to 3,762 lynchings. Statements similar to that of Governor James Rolfe, ROLPH, ROLPH, of California promising protection to the San Jose lynchers have been made by another state executives. Governors and officials have run for election on promises to relax anti-lynching laws. In many cases, courts have refused to proceed against leaders of lynching mobs, although it would have been relatively simple for the state to make a case against them. When indictments have been returned in a comparatively small number of cases, sentences have been usually light. Out of 21 lynchings in 1930, only 49 persons from the thousands in the mobs and on the sidelines have been indicted. Only 4 have been sentenced. Cole Blease, when governor of South Carolina in 1911, said, whenever the Constitution comes between me and the virtue of white women of South Carolina, I say, to hell with the Constitution. Governor Dan Moody of Texas once said to National Guardsmen, hold the Negro if possible, but don't shoot anybody. During the first 6 months of 1919, after President Wilson's plea to end lynchings, 6 men were burned. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People demanded an investigation from the various governors. 4, Theodore G. Bilbo of Mississippi, W.P. Hobby of Texas, Hugh M. Dorsey of Georgia, and Charles Brow of Arkansas refused to answer. 1, Sidney J. Cass of Florida, took the association to task and said, there's no use bringing lynchers to trial. The citizenship will not stand for it. If any man, white or black, should dishonor one of my family, he would meet my fist square from the shoulder. And every white man in the South who is a red-blooded American feels the same. The scenes of lynching are usually rural places below the general economic and social average or regressive towns. Many surveys have been conducted to determine this fact. It is a rural southern county, writes J.A. Chadburn in Lynching and the Law, characterized in general by social and economic decadence. For example, it is below the state average in per capita tax valuation, bank deposits, income from farm and factory, income tax returns, and ownership of automobiles. In such a belated frontier, the shiftless elements of the population, the propertyless younger group without real jobs and without real responsibility, serve as good raw material for a lynching mob. The average age of the mob, according to Dr. Arthur Roper, rapper, of the Commission on Interracial Cooperation in the Tragedy of Lynching, is from 18 to 25. Frequently, older men lead the group or make suggestions. The cruelty of mobs has long furnished the students of crowd psychology with their best laboratory material. Let him die slowly is a cry that most observers of the lynchings have heard from many throats. Anything to prolong the agony is resorted to. In addition to its cruelty, the typical lynch mob has a complete disregard for property. Since the majority of the mobs are men without possessions and of a low sense of responsibility, they suffer no sense of personal loss and destruction. In the lynching of a Negro accused of assaulting a white woman at Sherman, Texas in 1930, the mob destroyed the Grayson County Courthouse and then fired the entire Negro business section of the town, valued at between $50,000 and $100,000. Remember earlier it said it was $60,000, so it refused to let firemen play their hoses on the burning building, and to enforce its order, the rioters cut up the hoses into little pieces. According to Dr. Raper, the mob, out of a mistaken desire to convince the world at large of its right to lynch a man, often holds a mock trial or forces a confession out of the victim by a mock third degree. In the lynching of two Negroes at Scuba, Mississippi in 1930, the third degree was applied by the nooses, which had already been slipped over the heads of the men. When they refused to answer questions, they were snapped off the ground, then lowered so they could answer. One man expired by strangulation, never confessing the robbery of which he was accused, while his partner, to end the agony, blurted out a statement before being swung aloft for the last time. This tendency of the mob to believe rumors has also been good material for the psychologists. The craving of modern persons for violence and the fierceness of usually peaceful people when aroused partly explains their extreme willingness to believe anything which would contribute toward giving them a thrill and a sense of power. It said in here, the craving of modern persons of violence and the fierceness of usually peaceful people when aroused partly explains their extreme willingness to believe anything which would contribute toward giving them a thrill and a sense of power. The lynching party and the manhunt, the baying of the dogs in the dead of night, and the entire scene lit by the flaring of pine knots or fluor torches affords a good road to emotional escape from drab lives most lynchers usually lead. That's the most exciting part of their life. Yep. It's kind of like in that movie, the cartoon Shrek. You remember when they were going with the torches? That's how they said it was. Yep, the lynching party and the manhunt. It was the chase. The baying of the dogs in the dead of night, the entire scene lit by the flaring of pine knots or fluor torches affords a good road to emotional escape from drab lives most lynchers usually lead. They were bombs, they were losers. One of the most brutal untruths about lynchings is the common statement of the lynching apologist. We've got to lynch a nigger now and then to protect our women. The records show, however, that 1,406 lynchings since 1889 were for homicide, while only 623 were for rape. At least 80 Negro women have been lynched. These assumptions have been kept alive, Dr. Raper says, by certain types of politicians who keep themselves in office by appeals to racial fear and antagonism. It is interesting to note here that in no country during peacetime, except the United States, does lynching and mob violence form such an important part in the roster of crimes. Revolutions, whether fascist or communist, have their own particular forms of mob violence and choose their victims in their own particular way. The American lynch mob batters down the jail door, attacks the sheriff, pours on gasoline, and uses the rope. Another common excuse for lynching is that the law is too slow. As far back as 1893, according to Dr. Chadburn, the Georgia Bar Association said that a growing distrust in the promptness and efficiency of the law caused many lynchings. Also, the fear that sentence would not be severe enough was responsible for many more. Added to these feelings on the part of lynching mobs was the assurance that no action would be taken against the lynchers by the state. Regarding the attitudes of sheriffs and peace officers, Dr. Raper quotes a common remark as explanation. Do you think I'm going to risk my life protecting a nigger? In most cases, sheriffs and deputies act in connivance with the mob. Connivance. Yeah, they act in connivance with the mob. In a Mississippi lynching several years ago, the sheriff promised the mob to turn the prisoner over to it at 4 o'clock promptly. Other times they were in sympathy with the lynching. and simply look the other way. Occasionally, sheriffs put up a fight, take the word of their election promises seriously, and try to protect the prisoners. But this subject usually demands, but this subject usually depends upon the caliber and personality of the man. Politics too plays a part. The lynch mob is usually the sovereign electorate, and the sheriff cannot afford to antagonize it. The use of the National Guard, while usually effective, has a bad after effect. Bad blood is created, and the town or community usually goes into open rebellion against the state. Salisbury, Maryland, is a case in point where the mob battled the troopers with a vengeance and were dispersed only at the point of fixed bayonets and with tear gas. Oh. New York World Telegram, December 8, 1933. Heart and genitals carved from lynched Negroes' corpse. Counts, Texas. Kountze. Counts, Texas. If you ever been there, you'll never forget. December 8th, David Gregory, a Negro ex-convict accused of attacking and slaying a white woman, was shot to death when he was said to have resisted arrest by a posse, and his body later mutilated and burned by a mob which dragged it to a pyre in the Negro section of Counts early today. Officers and incensed citizens have been searching for the Negro since Mrs. Nellie Williams Brockman. Also, the officers and the citizens was looking for him. Since Mrs. Nellie Williams Brockman, 30 years old, wife of a farmer, was found dead on a highway near here last Saturday. Last night, a posse trailed the Negro to his hiding place in the belfry of a Negro church at Voth, V-O-T-H, a town between Kuntz and Beaumont. There he was shot and wounded when officers said he drew a pistol and resisted arrest. The wounded Negro, unconscious, was taken to a hospital at Beaumont. But when officers received information a mob was forming at Kuntz and started towards Beaumont, they took the Negro away in an automobile, trying to protect him. Without regaining consciousness or being able to make any statement as to his guilt or innocence, the Negro died as the car bearing him sped towards Vador, 6 miles east of Beaumont. I've heard of Vador somewhere. Vador, Texas, Vidor. Wasn't that in the video earlier this year, or maybe later last year, when the brother, he was a driver, and he was telling about he drove an 18-wheeler, and he was telling about other drivers was telling him, do not, whatever you do, do not go to Vidor, Texas, Vidor. I might be pronouncing it wrong. He said, but he was driving, and the GPS, that's exactly where he went to. Yep, that's exactly where he went to. And he said as soon as he got there, and they seen him, they were like, oh, uh-oh. They called him like, hey, we got a double O. We got to get him out of here. We got to get this off of here and get you out of here. Don't stop until you hit the next city limits. Yeah, sure did. And it was in Vidor, however you say it. The body was taken to Silsbee, Silsbee, another small town in the vicinity, by Sheriff Miles Jordan of Hardin County. On learning of these developments, the mob, slowly increasing in size, trailed the sheriff to Silsbee, took the body from him, tied it behind an automobile with chains, and dragged it for 35 minutes through the Negro section of Kuntz to terrorize the Negro population. For 30 minutes. Well, you know, in the other story, it said white folks took a black man's body, and after they had burned him at the stake and shot him full of bullets, and maimed him, mutilated him. They drove his body for 6 hours through the black people neighborhoods. For 6 hours, just back and forth, back and forth. Didn't nobody stop them. Members of the mob of approximately 300 white men cut out the Negro's heart and sexual organs before casting it to the flames. And ate it. And just ate it. New York Times, December 16, 1933. We almost done, y'all, with this book. We almost done. Yeah. I know I said that about a week ago, didn't I? But we are. We ain't got but that much right there left. That much. New York Times, December 16, 1933. Cleared by jury, then lynched. Columbia, Tennessee, December 15. Cord Cheek. That's his name. Cord, C-O-R-D, Cheek. C-H-E-E-C-K. Cheek. 20 years old, a Negro was found hanging from the limb of a cedar tree near here tonight. He was lynched following a refusal of a grand jury to indict him for molesting an 11-year-old white girl. Because he didn't do it. New York World Telegram, December 26, 1933. Survivor of L.A. lynching, I guess that's Louisiana. Survivor of Louisiana lynching tells of his ordeal. And I was just saying a few nights ago, that no one ever survived the lynching to tell us. A story of being hanged by a Louisiana mob and of surviving the ordeal was told here yesterday by Norman Thibodeaux. 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 19-year-old Negro from New Orleans. Another Negro lynched by the same mob was less fortunate. He did not survive. A white man afterwards confessed the murder of the white girl, which inspired the lynchings. It's always white men. I told him I was innocent, Norman said. They beat me worse yet. I couldn't breathe, and my eyes was popping out. Norman arrived here yesterday on funds furnished by the International Labor Defense and will tell his story Thursday night at a mass meeting against lynching in Temple Baptist Church, 269 Lenox Avenue. A soft voice, readily smiling Negro, Norman was reared in New Orleans by his grandmother and went through the 9th grade at public school. Smoking cigarettes incessantly, he told of the necktie party today in the ILD offices. That's the International Labor Defense. I went up to Laborville to visit my other grandmother, he said. It was on the 11th of October. When I got there, I heard about this white girl. She'd been found dead in the cane field. They arrested this boy, Freddie Moore, and Wednesday night, some men take him and say they gon' hang him. They torture him, and he say a Negro boy named Norman Jackson helped him kill the white girl. Ain't no Norman Jackson, but my name is Norman, and they come for me. 7 men come at 3 in the morning, and they say, get up, nigger, and put on your clothes. The sheriff, Ferdinand Richards, was leading the mob. And when I done put on my clothes fast enough, the sheriff, he beats me with his gun. Norman lowered his head, pointed to still obvious bruises and discolorations, and continued. I'll tell you just how they did. They wouldn't let me put on only my pants and shirt, and they was beating me and cursing. They said they showed me my pal hanging, and they said, nigger, you went after a white woman. And I said, I didn't know nothing about it. They took me down to the bridge in a car, and 60 or 70 men yanked me out and they was beating me in guns. They was beating me with guns in their fists. They say if I tell them I did it, they let me go. But I just say, I is innocent. And I didn't plead or nothing. They said I helped Freddie Moore kill this woman. And Freddie was hanging there, tortured. He was dead. One of these men says, let's hang this nigger and be done with it. And another man said, no, we hung one nigger. Let's burn this one. They decides to hang me, and one white boy gets a brand new rope. I was bleeding bad. They makes a loop in the rope and puts it around my neck and throws one end to a fella standing on the bridge right next to where Freddie Moore was hanging. They start to pull me up, and I says to the last, I is innocent, but that don't do no good. They pulls me up in the air, and I couldn't breathe, and my eyes was popping. I felt bad. Then this bridge tender, his name Cadence, Cadeus, Cadence. He say, cut that nigger down. He just got here. And his son climb up the bridge, and he soon climbed up the bridge and cut the rope. And I fell down unconscious. How I feel? How I feel? How would you feel? I didn't want to stay up there no more. Well, the sheriff, he grabbed me and put me in a car with two other men, and they drive 10 miles down the back road to Valenciennes in the dark, and they stop alongside a cane field, and sheriff, he say, get out, nigger. I gets out and I walks about 20 feet, and I hear the sheriff hollering, run, nigger. I starts a running, and they start shooting at me. I hear them bullets singing close to my head as I runs. I stumbled and fell in the cane, and I hears sheriff say, come on, boys, we got that nigger. And they drive off. I lays there bleeding for a long time. It's dark, and I gets frightened. I get sort of nervous with what's happened to me, and I gets afraid. Finally, I crawls across the cane and gets to a colored lady's house, and she lets me hide till her son goes to work. And then she put me out. She says, get out. I don't want the sheriff coming here. I goes to my uncle's house and hides in the corn crib all day. And he said, you better get away from there. And I tell him I just got to see grandmother because she think they done killed me. Come night, I went to the house of a gal I know, and she get my grandmother. My grandmother, she been crying all day because they tell her they'll find my body in the cane in a day or so. Knowing his grandmother gave him clothes, money. That night he walked 20 miles to another town and caught a train for New Orleans. In New Orleans, he was arrested as a suspect in the murder at the request of the high sheriff when he went to the hospital to have his wounds dressed. He was not released until 2 weeks later when the stepfather of the murdered girl, Ella LaRose, ELLAROLZE, Ella LaRose, confessed he the one that killed her. Yep. He the one killed her. New York Times, December 27, 1933. Terms lynch survivor, liar. New Orleans, December 26. Sheriff L.H. Himmel of Assumption Parish tonight characterized as a malicious lie, a statement attributed to Norman Thillabuse, Negro who was whipped and nearly hanged by a mob, which a short time earlier had hanged Freddie Moore, Negro murder suspect. He warned Thillabuse never to put foot in this here parish again. Thillabuse had been quoted in a number of northern newspapers as saying that the stepfather of Annie Mae LaRose, it said her name was Ella LaRose, but here it said it's Annie Mae LaRose, who was found murdered in a cane field near Libertyville on October 11th, had confessed to the slaying of the girl, but that the sheriff had not arrested him. Birmingham, Alabama Post, June the 9th, 1934. Mob violence dealt to pair. Clarksdale, Mississippi. June the 9th. Two bodies hanging from a rickety wound trestle 3 miles east of Lambert, Mississippi this morning gave mute witnesses to Mississippi justice. The bodies were those of Joe Love and Isaac Thomas, Negroes lynched at sundown yesterday. The bodies were left hanging all night on orders of Greek Rice, district attorney. An inquest was held at the spot this morning. A verdict of death at the hands of persons unknown were returned. Torn from the custody of Mississippi officers near Hushpokena. Yeah, Hushpokena. Hushpuckena. Hushpokena at 6 o'clock last night. The Negroes were dead an hour later. More than 150 white men were in the mob that stopped the officers. They brandished guns and disarmed the officers. One of the Negroes' ears was chopped from his head before he died. They are said to have confessed an attempted assault on a Mississippi planter's wife. Now, we know better than that. Don't y'all be believing this shit. Du Bois Express, Pennsylvania, June 9, 1934. Eyewitness tells of lynching, Clarksdale, Mississippi, June 9. Despite the reluctance of witnesses to openly discuss the lynching of two Mississippi Negroes that took place here yesterday, the local newspaper was able to secure the following eyewitness account of the affair from a man who, nevertheless, refuses to give his name for fear of retaliation by townsmen. I saw him hang two Negroes last night. The Negroes screamed and prayed, but they died. Just before they died, they called on the Lord to help them. It won't do you no good to pray, niggers. Where you're going, someone in the crowd shouted to them. Some of the men wanted to cut them up. We better not waste too much time, someone else said, because the sheriff will be along any time now. It was getting pretty dark when we got to a bridge over a small creek near Lambert. Here's a good spot to get rid of them niggers, a fellow in the car with them said. We all stopped. There must have been as close to 200 white men from around the neighborhood. The Negroes were thrown out of the car. Ropes were tied around their necks. They screamed louder and louder. Cut out that crying, you black so-and-sos, someone shouted. One of the Negroes was hit in the ear. He fell down. Oh, Lordy, save me, he shouted. Someone kicked him. He got up swaying from side to side as if drunk. The crowd dragged the Negroes to the edge of the bridge. Push them off, a voice cried. They were pushed. Swinging down, you could hear their necks crack. It made me right sick for a minute. The body started swaying around, spinning back and forth, like that. Around and around they spun, sort of like two black tops on a string. Shall we cut them down now, someone asked. Hell no, another man said. Leave them up there for crow bait. For a while, no one said anything. Everybody just stood still and watched them swing. Finally, we started moving away. I went home. I couldn't eat no supper. I still saw them bodies swinging. Galveston, Texas. This is the Galveston Tribune. June the 21st, 1934. White girl is jailed. Negro friend is lynched. Newton, Texas, June the 21st. A Negro charged with associating with a white girl here was lynched last night by a mob of 200 armed white men who overpowered two deputy sheriffs who were taking him to another city for safekeeping. The nude body of the Negro, John Criggs, was found at 2 o'clock a.m. this morning today in front of a box factory. He had been hanged and shot. The deputies were halted on the highway 27 miles south of here. The officers were disarmed and a noose was thrown around the Negro's neck as he sat in the officer's car. The Negro was jerked from the car. The officers were told to get going. They drove away immediately. Deputy Sheriffs D.W. Smith and W.E. Davidson were ordered by Sheriff T.S. Hughes to spirit the Negro from the old Newton County Jail last night when a howling mob of men and women gathered outside. We told the Negro the jail was about to be stormed and that we were helpless, Smith said. We asked him if he wanted to attempt to slip away and go to Orange with us. He accepted gladly. The Negro, crying frantically, was given a coat and hastened out the rear door of the jail to an awaiting automobile. Smith said that about 27 miles from Newton, the road was blocked by a mob of white men standing 8 men deep. They were all armed with shotguns, rifles, and pistols, Smith said. As soon as the auto was stopped, Smith said other men came from the side of the road and the car was surrounded. I tried to plead with the men not to take the Negro, Smith said, but they jerked me from the car and took my gun. Davidson got the same treatment. After they took the Negro from the car, they told us to get moving. There was nothing else we could do. Riggs had been in jail for over a week on the charge of associating with a white woman. The woman had also been arrested and is in jail on the charge of vagrancy. Her full name is given as John Rivers, age 19. And this was in 1934. Is it y'all, John Rivers? Further details concerning the couple are vague. Some sources say Griggs' age as 38, others as 20. Some say they both worked in a local box factory. Others say they attended the same Texas college. From an editorial in the Chicago Defender, June 29, 1934, commentary. In the state of Texas, a white woman may associate more freely with a dog than with a Negro. So what it said? From an editorial in the Chicago Defender, June 29, 1934, the commentary. In the state of Texas, a white woman may associate more freely with a dog than with a Negro. I guess she can sleep with a dog more freely with a dog than she can with a Negro. And our brother Telebo that said he would rather sleep with a dog than a black woman. I guess that's where he get it. I guess that's where he get it from. I don't know. But it's kind of like what he said, and that's kind of like what this law said. Everybody just rather sleep with dogs. New Orleans Tribune, July the 10th, 1934. Suspect hanged from Oak on Bastrop Public Square. That's Bastrop. Bastrop, Louisiana, July the 9th. A mob of 3,000 white men stormed the Morehouse Parish Jail tonight, dragged out Andrew McLeod, 26 Negro, suspected of attempting to assault a white girl, and hanged him to an oak tree in the public square. Now, I wonder what made Morris Day come out with that song, Oak Tree. Remember the song, Oak Tree? And I know some McLeods. Yep. Down south. The mob tore down a telephone pole, intending to use it as a battering ram to gain entry to the jail. 3 other Negroes in prison with McLeod were so badly frightened that one of them shouted out, "White folks, batter down the side of the building and we'll throw them out to you." This the mob proceeded to do. Just then, District Attorney Hawthorne arrived and made a speech. "I sympathize with your attitude, but I'm afraid you'll get into trouble," he said. "If you sympathize with us," one of the leaders shouted, "why don't you take off that straw hat and take hold of this telephone pole?" McLeod had been arrested Sunday, some hours after a white girl reported an attempted attack Saturday night. She and her escort were returning to Bastrop from a dance. Her escort had been drinking, and he ran his car into a ditch. He was too intoxicated to go for help, and the girl started out for a gasoline station on foot. A Negro stepped out of the night, she said, and started to drag her into the woods. Before he could get her off the road, a car approached, frightening him away. McLeod was later picked up at his home, 25 miles away. After he was removed from the jail by the mob, McLeod was taken to a tall oak tree on the village green. He was placed on top of a car and a noose tied around his neck. The car was driven off. He fell with such force that the rope snapped. An unidentified man ran up with a knife and slit McLeod's throat from ear to ear. Nearly dead, he was strung up again. This time the rope held. The lynching site was located across the street from a picture show where a horror film was playing. A number of women emerging from the theater saw the Negro hanging from the tree and fainted. Was this in a black neighborhood, a black community? Because I don't see the white women faint. I don't see the white women faint. They was used to this. This was a part of their life too. This was their entertainment too. New York Daily News, July 11, 1934. Bastrop officials yawn over yesterday's lynching. Bastrop, Louisiana, July 10th. Parish authorities showed little interest today in the capture and punishment of a mob which lynched a colored man in the public square here last night. Sheriff J.F. Carpenter said he recognized none of his fellow townsmen in the mob. District Attorney F.W. Hawthorne, who had told the crowd he sympathized with his attitude, was non-committal. Now, you go into these old courthouses and stuff, like in my hometown and stuff, you go into them courthouses and they got the sheriffs all the way back. They got all their old racist asses on the wall. And I bet they got these motherfuckers on the wall too. Yep, them old black and white pictures. You know what I'm talking about. Atlanta Constitution, July 11, 1934. Lynched for indecent note. Bolden, Mississippi, July 16th. Accused of writing an indecent and insulting letter to a young Hinds County white girl, James Sanders, 25-year-old Negro, was riddled with bullets late today by a mob of armed citizens. As long as white folks was lynching black folks, they didn't need to go hunting and anything else. This was their entertainment. And white folks lived vicariously through other white folks doing this. I know they did. Washington Tribune, September the 1st, 1934. Origin of word lynch. We're going to find out the origin of the word lynch, as per se this book. On Route 29, 2 miles north of Alta Vista, Virginia, stands an historical marker on the Virginia Highway Commission, which tells the following story. 100 yards west of here stands a walnut tree under which Colonel Charles Lynch held an informal court in 1870 for the trial of Tories and criminals who were later whipped. This form of summary justice was first used by his brother, John Lynch, founder of Lynchburg. From this crude form of justice evolved the term lynch law. It is claimed that John Lynch first used such methods of summary punishment to rid the neighborhood of escaped slaves. Macon, Georgia Telegraph. That's the Macon Telegraph in Georgia. October 26, 1934. Big preparation made for lynching tonight. Greenwood, Florida, October 26th. Local citizens have been preparing all day for the lynching of a Negro scheduled to take place here tonight. Like it was a fucking dance or an event or something. You see how they did? So today, when you coming together and you're creating and you're organizing and putting stuff together, this is the only organizing and spending time and stuff that white folks really get into. Yep, preparing all day. They was organizing all day for this lynching. This morning, a mob seized Claude Neal, Neal, 23, from a jail in Brewton, Alabama, Brewton, Alabama, where he had been held in connection with the murder of a white girl, which took place here several days ago. As always, a white girl, in which we know it usually was not a black man that committed these crimes. And it usually was not an assault. They were in relationships, and white men believe what they want to believe. At noon, a committee of 6 representing the mob announced a timetable for the lynching, which was given in newspapers and over the radio as follows. At sundown, the Negro will be taken to the farm 2 miles from here, where Miss Lola Kennedy, Cannidy, the murder victim, lived. There he would be mutilated by the girl's father. Then he would be brought to a pig pen in the middle of a cotton field nearby, where the girl's body was found and killed. Finally, his body would be brought to Marianna, the county seat, 9 miles from here, and hung in the courthouse square for all to see. The Negro is presently being held at an undisclosed location in a swamp along the Chattahoochee River, not far from the Kennedy farm. All white folks are invited to the party. Told you it's a party. It's entertainment. It's a get-together. It's a carnival, a festival. It's a concert for these people. All white folks are invited to the party, said the announcement issued by the mob's Committee of 6. As a result, thousands of citizens have been congregating all afternoon at the Kennedy farm. Bonfires have started. Piles of sharp sticks have been prepared. Sharp sticks. Knives have been sharpened, and one woman has displayed a carry comb with which she promises to torture the Negro. A carry comb. What is a carry comb? The crowd is said to have been addressed by a member of the Florida State Legislature who, in a humorous vein, promised that no one would be disappointed if the crowd maintained decorum. Some misgivings are said to have been expressed by the committee over the fact that the crowd is heavily armed and highly intoxicated. It is feared that shots aimed at the Negro may go astray and injure innocent bystanders, who include some women with babies in their arms. White women had babies in their arms at these lynchings. During the early afternoon, a party of men broke off from the crowd at the Kennedy farm and paid a visit to the cabin where Neal's family lives and burned it down to the ground. I'm sure they were gone. Early announcement of the lynching had had its repercussions outside the community. At Tallahassee, the Florida Council of the Association of Colored Women for the Prevention of Lynching has issued a strong appeal to law enforcement officials to do all within their power to prevent the mob from carrying out its plan. In Washington, the Attorney General of the United States said that he was powerless to invoke the federal kidnapping law to rescue Neal because no ransom was involved. In New York, Walter White, Secretary of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, sent a telegram to Florida's Governor Dave Schultz, urging him to take immediate steps to protect Neal. J.P. Newell, the governor's executive secretary at Tallahassee, has replied that the governor is out of the Capitol and cannot be reached. Birmingham, Alabama Post, October 27, 1934. Lynching carried off almost as advertised. Marianna, Florida, October 27th. The body of Claude Neal, 23 Negro confessed attacker and slayer of a white girl, swung from a tree on a courthouse lawn here today. Victim of an enraged mob's vengeance. A crowd of 100 white men, white women, and white children silently gazed at the body, nude except for a sack reaching from waist to the knee. The Negro had been shot at least 50 times, burned with red-hot irons, and dragged through the streets behind an automobile. An eyewitness to the lynching, which took place yesterday, said that Neal had been forced to mutilate himself before he died. The eyewitness gave the following account of the event, which took place in a swamp beside the Chattahoochee River. Emmett was the Tallahatchie River, I think. And there was another brother was at the Swanee River. So many rivers in this head. And still couldn't put out the fire. Due to the large number of people who wanted to lynch the nigger, it was decided to do away with him first and then bring him to the Kennedy house dead. First, they cut off his penis. That's what it said. First, they cut off his penis. He was made to eat it. Then they cut off his testicles and made him eat them and say he liked it. Then they sliced his sides and his stomach with knives. And every now and then, somebody would cut off a finger or a toe. Red hot irons were used on the nigger to burn him from top to bottom. From time to time during the torture, a rope would be tied around Neal's neck, and he was pulled up over a limb and held there until he almost choked to death, when he would be let down and the torture began all over again. After several hours of this punishment, they decided to just kill him. Neal's body was tied to a rope on the rear of an automobile and dragged over the highway to the Kennedy home. Here, a mob estimated to number somewhere between 3,000 white people and 7,000 white people from 11 southern states were excitedly waiting for his arrival. When the car which was dragging Neal's body came in front of the Kennedy home, a man who was riding the rear bumper cut the rope. A woman came out of the Kennedy house and drove a butcher knife into his heart. Then the crowd came by, and some kicked him and some drove their cars over him. What remained of the body was brought by the mob to Marianna, where it is now hanging from a tree on the northeast corner of the courthouse square. Photographers say they will soon have pictures of the body for sale at 50 cents a piece. Fingers and toes from Neal's body are freely exhibited on street corners here. Neal is said to have confessed to attacking and killing the white girl when he was first brought to jail for safekeeping. We're going to read a few more. I was going to really try to go on and finish this book. I'm going to finish it tomorrow night, though, y'all. We're going to finish this book tomorrow night. What time is it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can't finish it anyway. Then we'll be over time and stuff. New York Post. This right here may be the last one. New York Post, because I want to tell y'all something. October 27, 1934. Father feels deprived of chance to kill Negro. Greenwood, Florida, October 27. A bent, little old man today stood on the porch of his simple farm home and said a mob done me wrong because it killed a Negro accused of attacking and killing his 23-year-old daughter after assuring the old man that he would have the first shot. George Kennedy, the red beard be lying, but his stooped frame, attesting his 60-odd years, wept openly at every mention of my girl, as he told how Miss Lola Kennedy, his daughter, left her farmhouse last week to be killed at the pig pen half a mile away in a cotton patch. Claude Neal, young Negro, who officers said confessed to the killing, was shot many times. His body mutilated with knives and taken to Mariana, the county seat, where it was strung up by the neck from a tree limb in the courthouse square. They done me wrong about the killing, said the aged father as he wept. They promised me they would bring him to my house before they killed him and let me have the first shot. He was crying. That's what I wanted. Little bent old man, humped over. He was an elderly man in his 60s. Okay, is that it? Editorial in the Chicago Defender, December 29, 1934, Stranger Than Fiction. The state of Maryland, as late as 1856, enacted a law that provided that a Negro convicted of murder should have his right arm cut off, his head severed, his body divided into 4 parts, and that the head and quarters should then be set up in the most public place near where the crime was committed. Ain't it a statue like that with an arm missing or something? It just seemed like it. And remember that movie, where the man, what was the name of that movie with Chevy Chase in it? It was a funny movie, Funny Farm. And him and the wife was at the bar, and he was eating them oxtails, them ox nuts, and they were egging him on to eat it. These people so fucking wicked. They were putting everything into the movies, but they'll put a spin on it so that we don't connect the dots of that to the movies. I wanted to mention that, yeah, because that's what I thought about when I read that part there. But yeah, that's it. We're going to finish the rest of this tomorrow. I'm going to mark this. I don't even know what my little bookmarks are. I'm just going to put it down. We're going to finish this tomorrow, though. We're going to finish that tomorrow. But I just wanted to come on tonight and read, try to get done with that. I thank y'all for being here. We almost done with it. We're almost done with this book. We beginning the healing that we need, at least. And the shit is finna hit the fan. We finna go through some really hard times. But at least we know we gonna do this together. At least we know we gonna We're going to survive this together. We're going to look out for each other. We're not going to run where it's easy at to our open enemies and take what they have for us so that we can sacrifice and sabotage our communities and our families and stuff. We're not going to do that. We're not going to sell us out because we finna go through some hard times and white folks going to promise. They finna make promises and stuff. And no, we just don't want that. We don't want that right now. We're doing for us right now. Even if you got to walk, you got to uproot yourself and go be with your family, with other people of our own that's creating for us. Then uproot yourself. It's time to go. If you know you can't do it and you can't make it, where you at? Pack you and them babies up and go where your family at that's got land. You know what to do when you get there. Help, build, create, feed them babies, start teaching them babies. I got to get an air purifier. I feel your hair everywhere. But that's what we're going to have to do. So let's just get ready to do it. I do plan on coming on tomorrow, but I think upon this new knowledge and stuff, I think I'm finna go buy me some more soil and stuff. I did order this seed package, y'all, but I think I was scammed. And it was like $49. They said I should get it. But with the ports being empty, who knows? I do got some here, but they probably old. I wanted new seeds that I can make sure were non-GMO. Because them other seeds I got came from like the Dollar Tree where you get 4 for $1 in Walmart. And I'm going to use every last one of them. Yep, I'm going to use every last one of them. I don't care if it ain't but $20, if it ain't but $50. Let's get us a couple of bags of soil and go on and buy some of them 4 packs of seeds for $1 at the dollar store, Family Dollar, go to Walmart, Costco and stuff. I can't afford Costco. So I'm taking myself right on to the Dollar Tree, Walmart. Yeah, and get me some seeds and stuff. And just go on and start. We ain't got but 2 weeks. At least something ought to be sprouting by then. And yeah, let's just, keep the faith. You so welcome, Layla. Thank you for being here. And hello, Hank. How you doing? Everybody, I thank y'all for being here. I really do. Our ancestors really appreciate this. Yeah, Vidor is a sundown town. I knew I heard about it somewhere. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, can we read something? Can we read the testimony of an Irish girl next? Where is it at? I'll read it if I got it. Oh, you talking to them? Okay, well, yeah, y'all read it then. Yeah. But I thank y'all for being here. I'm tired of going to process this, and I advise y'all to process this too. Every night, after every reading, we have to process this. We have to process this. We still want to be civil. We still want to be like our mothers and our fathers and grandparents taught us to be, nonviolent. We only protect ourselves when we have to. We don't go out looking for trouble. We don't create trouble. We don't harm people. But, with that being said, we have to process this right here. Because the way things is getting now, any motherfucker say the wrong thing, and it just might pop off like that. So, yeah, process this right here and set your boundaries. Set your boundaries, Black America, because all of this is happening for a reason. This is not a coincidence. I'm not here. You not here. The world is not on fire. None of this is a coincidence. We finna be literally starving, rationing food, eating once a day, if you will, and we're going to have to be on our best. We're going to have to be at our highest vibrating level. Anything low vibrating ain't going to make it. We're not going to make it like that. So, yeah, man, it's just coming too fast. It's coming too fast. I thought we would have a little more time than this, but now that we don't, let's just be thankful for the time we do get. And we know with all of us, and we did. Our people, in my opinion, built up Black Wall Streets overnight after centuries of being oppressed, enslaved, slaughtered. Then they actually built up Black Wall Street. It was like, what, 40 years, 50, 55 years? Almost overnight, compared to all that time being oppressed. So yeah, we can do this almost overnight. You know, all we need is a stir fry to feed these babies and stuff. Go out and buy up you some water and stuff. If you can, make your little water filtration system. Yeah, now is the time. I'm gonna try to get me something going. I know y'all gonna be like, Face drinking muddy water. You might need to filter that a little bit more. I don't know. I'm just gonna try it too. And my brothers, help us, sisters. Let us know. Your sisters, your cousins, your neighbors, your classmates, you're still close with them and stuff. They listen to you. Let them know, girl, you need to go on up there and get you some pots and some seeds. Get you some soil. And you and all 5 of them babies, y'all sit down and you take carrots, you get peppers, you get onions, and y'all start growing and stuff. Tell us something out there. Hell, don't hear all of us telling us that we need to wake up and start preparing, and we ain't got but 2 weeks left. I'm just saying, time is of the essence. Time is of the essence now. And don't nobody eat. Make sure them babies eat. Make sure our elders eat. Our motherfucking asses, we can fast longer. We can fast longer. We can survive off of water longer. We don't know how long this gonna last anyway. Maybe other places, will be like, yeah, well, we'll only send food. I don't know how it's gonna fall out. Maybe they'll be like, fuck all of them shit, but we didn't do nothing. I feel like, they blaming us, punishing us. But let them do what they gonna do and stuff. That's them. Fighting amongst them and stuff. We not fighting amongst us no more. We ain't fighting amongst us no more. Our hot heads that's out there and stuff, they still hot. They still motherfucking hot. But us in general, collectively, we ain't fighting amongst us no more. No, you better stop that and you better let everybody know, nah, we on the loving now. We embracing us now. That's what we doing. We accepting us now. We finna save us now. But I love y'all to life. And I will see you tomorrow at noontime. I'm going to go out and get something. And we're going to get started on the patio. I hope it ain't cool out there. Because, hey, I'm ready to throw some potatoes somewhere, some onions or something. And at least, hey, in a few days and stuff, we'll have something sprouting up in a few years. I'll have a little garden growing and stuff. Be like, Face, what you over there eating? Yeah, I done made a brand new stir fry up in here. Yeah, fruit fry. It's going to be a fruit fry. I'm just going to take dried fruits and I'm going to stir fry them. And yeah, who knows? Yeah, it's a new era. This is a new era. We can create this however we want to create this for us. And let's do it the way we always do it. Shit, we dominate everything. Even though it's finna be at its worst, we can dominate this. Let's do it for us, for our babies. They deserve to see us in our greatest capacity of creating, inventing, contributing, saving us. They ain't never seen us stand up for us like this. Half of us ain't never seen us stand up for like this before. And now we got to. Let's just do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. I love y'all and peace and power to the people. Yep. Ooh, called out. You say y'all got seeds on there? Get them. Get them seeds. I know that's right. Oh, I want to talk to y'all. Maybe y'all can mail me some. I know, right? I love y'all. Peace and power to the people. I love you to life.